Kia ora, and welcome to another video celebrating World Breastfeeding Week 2021. This is intended as a platform to share diverse experiences and information, and we hope that you find this series supportive and informative. It is important to note that these are personal stories and opinions and do not necessarily reflect the views of Women's Health Action or our funders. Please seek advice from your health professional before making any important decisions about infant or young child feeding.
Kia ora, hi, my name is Aleshia Dearlove. I'm here to have a good chat to you today about starting solid foods for baby. Now my mahi is with Te Rito Ora, part of Counties Manukau DHB, and what we do at Te Rito Ora is we empower our community with breastfeeding education and pregnancy, breastfeeding support once baby arrives until a baby's about 2 years old. We do starting solids talks so we can get speakers in or do one-on-ones with you or your group to talk about starting solids, and we also do healthy cooking on a budget workshops in our community. So how we feed our babies, it's a pretty emotive topic. You know, we all eat food, so we all have an opinion on it, and I just want you to take a minute before we dive into the what, how, why it's important kind of talk to have a think about what it looks like for you, your cultural influences, your values, your beliefs. Every family can look a little bit different. So what does starting solids look like in your family? So first of all, I want you to get your mind going on this little talk card. All right, what do you think of this? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Are you somewhere in the middle? Do you think that babies should be able to play with their food or not? Why do you think that? How can it look different to another family? Alright, so there's no right or wrong answer, but how we feed our babies does matter. I'm going to put up this slide, and what this slide tells us is that we know how we feed our babies influences their short and long-term health outcomes. How we feed our babies matters. So short term, what's going on for our babies aged 6 to 12 months? Well, there's a whole lot of sensory learning that's going on. Now I know that starting solids is a really exciting time for mum and baby, but it is about so much more than just trying to get heaps of food into our babies. Remember that babies had a really little amount of exposure to food, or maybe no exposure to food before, and so they have to learn about food in the way that babies learn best, and that's through play. Baby is learning about different smells. Think about all the different smells of food. You know, if you cut into a lemon, there's that citrus scent, or if you go past a shop, won't name any, but there are some shops that you know that waft their scent out. Food has so many different smells. Babies learning about taste, developing their taste preferences, what they like, what they don't like. Babies also learning about texture. So what does the food feel like? What does that chunky mashed pumpkin feel like? Smush between fingers, or that juicy orange dripping down their fingers. What's that slimy banana? Food has a lot of different textures. There's smooth, there's crunchy, there's so many different kinds. Babies also learning about temperature. You know, milk feeds, breast milk is warm. So baby would never have had cold food before. There's a lot of learning going on. With all of the sensory input, remember that if a baby rejects a food or doesn't want to eat it, it might not be because they don't like the taste. Research shows us it takes between 15 and 20 tries of a food before a baby knows whether or not they like it. They might have rejected it because they weren't used to maybe that texture, you know, like, oh, what's that fairy kiwi fruit? Or perhaps they needed more times to get used to the different temperature of the food. So if a baby doesn't want a type of food, remember it might not be the taste, okay? So what you do is that you keep the environment calm and you keep offering, keep offering, keep offering. For good gut health, right. This is something I've been asked about a lot recently. I think it's starting to get onto people's radars, which is great. For good gut health, veggies, fruit, high fiber foods, legumes. You know, if you're feeding that kind of thing most of the time, your baby's going to have good gut health. Gut health influences our health outcomes. So we know that if we have a better gut health, so lots of good bacteria in our guts, then we are going to again have less chance of diabetes, obesity, asthma, eczema, food allergies, etc. We'll talk about when to start solids. Alright, so this topic is sometimes met with a little bit of controversy because about one generation ago the advice was to start at about 4 months. But now we know a little bit more, and the best practice is to start around 6 months, but also look for the physical signs of readiness. Is your baby's body physically able to take on the food and start the big process of digestion? It's a pretty big deal for the food to go in, to be divided into nutrients, waste, just to handle that big process of digestion, okay? So try not to start your baby too early. 6 months is around 6 months is the recommendation. The Ministry of Health recommends exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months of life. So that means your baby doesn't need food or water for the first 6 months. Remember, this is general advice. If you have had advice from a healthcare professional, follow your baby's specific care plan. Now, what are the physical signs of readiness? What to look out for? Right, can your baby sit mostly unassisted? Okay, so when you sit them down, if they fall over, they're probably not quite ready yet. Just wait a little bit longer. When you put food into baby's mouth, can baby hold it in? Okay, if your baby's spitting it out, pushing it out with their tongue, they're probably not ready to take on that food yet. Can your baby hold their head up? Okay, so a really strong neck holding their head up. We would never start a baby on solids that's still like chin to chest kind of thing. So look at your baby's signs of readiness as well. Let's talk about iron. Now, I've been doing these talks for over 7 years now, and I've been trying to think of a way to make iron fun. I haven't found it yet, so here's a list that you can all look at. Right, this is from the Nutrition Foundation website, and there's a beef and lamb advert right in the middle. So what this shows is that our babies need heaps of iron, okay? A baby needs more iron than an adult male. Why do babies need so much iron, right? If you've ever been pregnant, you've probably had somebody talk to you about iron before. If you've ever been low in iron, think about how you felt. Yeah, you are really lethargic, low on energy. We don't want our babies to start feeling like that. Baby is born with enough iron to last them for 6 months, and then at 6 months you have to top them up with a bit of iron-rich food as well. So if you do eat meat, the more red the meat, the more the iron is in it. If you're looking for plant-based sources to complement the meat intake, so tofu has a lot of iron in it, as well as all of your dark leafy greens, all of your legumes, again, so lentils, chickpeas, red kidney beans, multigrain bread has a bit in it, a boiled egg has a little bit in it. So you can see from these lists that if you are giving a variety of these kinds of foods, of like real foods, you know, things that grow, that come from the whenua, from earth, then you will probably hit those iron levels, okay? Just a variety of that real food alongside baby's breast milk. Now, iron is really important for our babies as well, for their immune system. So our babies will be better able to fight off coughs and colds and sicknesses with enough iron. It's critical for their brain development, for every cell in their body to grow, because they're growing so fast. So now that we've had a little chat about kind of why it's important and iron-rich foods, what this looks like is how to start, right? So to start at around 6 months, yep, with puree. So half a teaspoon is all baby needs on day 1. Okay, it's not about trying to get a really big amount into your baby. When baby is 6 months old, you feed the milk feed first, so breastfeed first, then wait about 20 minutes, and then give the solid foods. So between 6 and 8 or 9 months, you want to keep breastfeeding first before you give baby their solid kai. From about 8 or 9 months, you can give their solid foods first and then breastfeed. Water can be given at the end of the meal. Babies still have a really little tummy, so you don't want to go filling it up with water and then baby might be too full for their kai or their breast milk. So give water in a sippy cup with a really good lid at the end of the meal, if needed. Now the great thing about if you are breastfeeding is that your body changes to your baby's needs. So if it's a really hot day, your body temperature goes up and you'll actually have more water in your breast milk to quench baby's thirst. So on a hot day, you might notice your baby is kind of snack feeding all day to get that water. So you might not need to give it in a sippy cup. Now I've got a question to ask, right? Does anyone know what the recommended daily intake of vegetables is for a 9-month-old baby? I've been doing these talks for about 7 years and no one's been able to answer this yet, which shows us that we need to get this information out there. Alright, so the recommendation is that baby eats 2 veggies a day. It's going to be updated soon, if it hasn't already, to be 2 fruit and 2 veggies. At the last survey that was done in New Zealand, it showed that only 32% of mums were hitting this target of 2 veggies a day. There was about 55% of mums that were hitting 1 veggie a day. We can do so much better than that. So what it looks like is maybe a round of cucumber at lunch and then a little bit of pumpkin for dinner, and you've hit that target. It doesn't need to cost a lot, just things that are in season. We will go into how to make a puree. Now, ideally you're going to be steaming the vegetables, but if you just need to boil them, perhaps you've only got a pot and not the right materials to steam them, then honestly boil them. Okay, it's better to get veggies in than not at all. You can make puree using either a stick blender. They can be as cheap as between $12 and $20 from Kmart or the warehouse. If you can't get your hands on a stick blender, that's okay. Use a potato masher, use a fork, and add in breast milk to it to make it a runny consistency. Work with what you've got, knowing that you're giving your baby veggies. If you have a baby who is a little bit slower to take to solids, that's okay. There's some things that you can do to help encourage baby. So one, let them have that play, just focus on play. If you look at babies, everything ends up in the mouth anyway, doesn't it? So you will be getting some of the food into baby. You might not be able to measure the amount, but that's okay when you're starting out. The evidence of it going in baby's mouth will be found in baby's nappy. Okay, if your baby's really fast to take to solids, you could add in a bit of good fat like an avocado, or some protein like some meat to help to give a smaller quantity of food that's a little bit more satisfying for your baby. Now by 9 months old, your baby should be on about 3 meals a day. Okay, so at 6 months you start at half a teaspoon, and then by 9 months you're on 3 meals a day. Using your baby's appetite as a guide as to when to increase that. Okay, if your baby wants to go to 2 meals, go to 2 meals. If your baby's not that interested, that's okay. For a baby who might be a bit slower to take to solids, again, one little thing that I've seen work really well is just to consider the environment of how you're feeding your baby. So are you feeding your baby at mealtime with you and whoever else is in your whare, or are you feeding baby on their own, like 10 o'clock in the morning, sit them down in the high chair and you're trying to get the food in? Consider the environment, being social and inclusive with our babies is really important. They're social little beings, and sometimes, what's on mum's plate is actually so much more interesting to baby than what's on their own plate. So popping baby on your knee while you eat, and this is where you've got to check your own plate a little bit to make sure that you are eating veggies, fruit, legumes, meat, no salt, no sugar, no honey. Babies can get sick with infant botulism before their first birthday, so wait till after they're 1 for honey. If you sit your baby on your knee, then they will visually also learn what food is. So if you're a vegetable eater, your baby's looking at veggies all day, that's what your baby's going to learn food is. So to make your own baby food can be really, really cheap. The last time I did a shop was in March. Yep, things have gone up now a little bit, it's in August. But the cost of baby food was really, really low. 1 banana was 40 cents. And your baby won't get through a whole banana, so then you get to have the other half of it yourself. Win-win. 1 serve of kumara was about $1.65. Which can make baby food to last you a few days. Just buy what's in season, buy what's available to you. Now, cook time is about 20 minutes. And I know what you're thinking, being a mum as well, where am I going to find 20 minutes in my day to cook some baby food? Well, I'll tell you how you do it. What you do is you cook when you're in the kitchen anyway. So when you are unloading your dishwasher or doing the dishes, when you're putting on the jug to make yourself a tea or a coffee, put a pot on the stove or a tray of food in the oven. Time it for 20 minutes and it's done. If you wait till the end of the day to find another 20 minutes, you're probably not going to find it. Mums barely get time to have a shower most days, so do it when you're in the kitchen anyway. So with all of the crazy advice out there, remember that the Ministry of Health recommendation is to exclusively breastfeed for 6 months. Your baby will be 6 months old before you know it. There's no need to rush in with food, with water. What we covered today was briefly how to start solids, when to start, why it's important. There are short and long-term health outcomes here. And with all of the crazy advice that is out there in this information era that we live in, remember to start with veggies, fruit, legumes, meat if you do eat meat. Now veggies, get creative with them. You know, you can serve them roast, grated, boiled, steamed, mashed. Sound like Bubba Gump here. There are so many different ways to serve veggies, so mix it up a bit. If your baby maybe wasn't so sure about mashed pumpkin, try it grated. Try serving the same veggies in lots of different ways. And if a baby rejects the food the first time, just keep offering, keep offering, keep offering. Please remember, this is a general guide only, while efforts have been made to be inclusive of all beliefs and values and to be culturally responsive. This isn't tailored to individual advice. If you would like advice around how to feed your baby or breastfeeding education, breastfeeding support once Bubba arrives, or you want to come along to one of our workshops on how to cook healthy food for your whānau on a budget, please do get in touch. We have a free phone number, 0800 HELP BF, email terito.ora@middlemore.co.nz, or join our Facebook group. We'd love to have you along to check out all the things we do and get involved in all the exciting events that we often have for free in our community. Thank you to Big Latch on Aotearoa New Zealand for including Te Rito Ora in World Breastfeeding Week for 2021. Protect breastfeeding, a shared responsibility. It is amazing to be part of this community of breastfeeding supporters in New Zealand. Truly a shared responsibility. I hope you've all had a great week.